Commander Elena Reyes stood before the holographic display, her weathered features illuminated by the soft blue glow of ancient data streams. The recovered military logs floated before her, each one a piece of a puzzle she wasn't sure she wanted to solve. Beside her, the tall, crystalline form of Carthex shifted uncomfortably, their faceted eyes reflecting the scrolling text. "Are you certain you wish to proceed, Commander?" Carthex's translated voice carried notes of concern. "Some truths are better left in the past." Elena's jaw tightened. 20 years of peace between humans and the Zarkax had been built on carefully curated historical accounts. But these logs, these damned logs, threatened to unravel everything. "We're military historians, Carthex," she replied, her voice steady despite the tremor in her hands. "Our job is to understand the past, not hide from it." She reached out, selecting the first log entry with a gesture. The hologram shifted, revealing the face of Captain Marcus Torres, recorded 15 years before first official contact between humanity and the Zarkax. His expression was grim, his uniform stained with what Elena recognized as blood. Emergency log, USS Horizon, October 15, 2157. "We've encountered something. They came out of nowhere, 3 ships of unknown configuration. No response to hails. They just opened fire. Half my crew is dead, and the ones that aren't." His voice cracked. "The ones that aren't wish they were." Elena glanced at Carthex, whose crystalline form had darkened, a sign of distress in their species. "This contradicts all official records," they whispered. "First contact was peaceful, in 2172, through our scientific expedition." "Keep watching," Elena commanded softly, advancing through the logs. The next several entries painted a horrifying picture. The initial conflict hadn't been with the Zarkax proper, but with a splinter faction, religious extremists who believed first contact with any species must be through combat to test their worthiness. They had attacked 3 human colonies before the official Zarkax government intervened. But it was the final log that truly shook both viewers to their core. Admiral James Chen, speaking from what appeared to be a burning command center. "They never wanted anyone to know. Both sides, both governments agreed. Cover it up. Make it disappear. Thousands dead, and they just rewrote history. But I'm leaving this record. Someone needs to know the truth. The price of our peace was paid in blood and lies." The recording ended, leaving them in silence. Elena's hands clenched into fists. "Your people's historians claimed your society never had internal conflicts. That the Zarkax were unified in purpose and belief." Carthex's form rippled with colors of shame and grief. "As your people claimed humanity approached the stars with peaceful intentions only. It seems both our species preferred comfortable lies to uncomfortable truths." Elena turned to face her research partner fully. In the 5 years they'd worked together, she'd never seen the alien look so human in their distress. "The question is, what do we do with this information? The peace between our peoples is real now, built on 15 years of cooperation and trust. But it was founded on a lie." "Perhaps," Carthex suggested, their form brightening slightly, "that is precisely why this truth must be known. Not to destroy what we have built, but to show how far we have come. To demonstrate that even from the ashes of conflict, understanding can emerge." Elena considered this, remembering her own family's military history. Her grandfather had served in those early days of space exploration, though he'd never spoken of it. How many other families carried similar silent burdens? "We need to know more," she decided. "These logs are just the beginning. If we're going to reveal this, we need the full story, from both sides." "The archives on Zarkax Prime," Carthex offered. "My clearance as a historical researcher might grant us access to sealed records from that era. If my people kept any evidence of this conflict. And I know someone in the Earth Republic's naval intelligence who owes me a favor," Elena added. "But we need to be careful. If both governments went to such lengths to hide this, they may go to greater lengths to keep it hidden, Carthex finished. Their crystalline form pulsed with determination. But as you said, Commander, we are historians. Our duty is to truth, not comfort. Elena nodded, already formulating a plan. They would need to move carefully, gather evidence quietly. But the truth of how humanity and the Zarkax truly first met, and how they overcame that bloody beginning to forge real peace, needed to be known. As she began composing a secure message to her contact in naval intelligence, Elena couldn't help but wonder, how many other secrets lay buried in the space between official histories and actual events. And more importantly, was humanity, were both their species, ready to face those truths? The answer, she suspected, would cost them both dearly to discover. Carthex, she said quietly, whatever we find, whatever happens, thank you for being willing to seek the truth with me. The alien's form brightened with the colors of dedication and friendship. As your human expression goes, Commander, in for a penny, in for a pound. Elena couldn't help but smile, despite the gravity of their situation. Together, they would uncover the true story of first contact, no matter where it led them. The truth about humanity's first steps into a larger galaxy, and the price paid for peace, waited in the darkness between the stars. The Zarkax archive towered above them, its crystalline spires reaching into the purple skies of the alien world. Elena felt small beneath its shadow, though not as small as she'd felt reading through the additional logs they'd uncovered in the past week. Each new revelation had been another weight on her conscience, another crack in the foundation of everything she believed about humanity's journey to the stars. Security protocols are heavier than usual, Carthex observed, their crystalline form shifting through cautionary amber hues. Someone knows we're looking. Elena checked her environmental suit seals one last time. Even after 15 years of peace, humans still couldn't breathe the methane-heavy atmosphere of Zarkax Prime without protection. Your cousin's clearance codes better work, or this will be a very short investigation. They approached the archive's entrance, where geometric patterns of light danced across surfaces that seemed to shift between solid and liquid states. Carthex pressed their primary appendage against the security panel, their form pulsing with transmitted data. For a moment that stretched into eternity, nothing happened. Then, with a sound like singing crystal, the entrance dissolved. We have 4 hours, Carthex said as they hurried inside. After that, the system will automatically flag any extended presence in the restricted sections. Elena nodded, following her friend through corridors that seemed to be grown rather than built. The archive's interior reminded her of being inside a geode, if that geode had been designed by mathematicians with a flair for the dramatic. They found the restricted section behind what appeared to be a solid wall of rainbow-hued crystal. Carthex's security codes worked again, revealing a chamber that hummed with stored data. Here, Carthex said, their voice tight with emotion. The complete records of the Purification sect. The extremists responsible for the attacks on your colonies. Elena activated her data tablet, watching as ancient records filled her screen. The Purification sect had believed that any species worthy of contact with the Zarkax had to be purified through combat. They had been waiting, watching humanity's expansion into space, judging whether humans would make suitable additions to the galactic community. They attacked those colonies as a test, Elena whispered, horror growing with each paragraph she read. They wanted to see how we'd respond to an overwhelming threat. To judge if we were worthy of survival. My people's greatest shame, Carthex confirmed, their colors shifting to deep blues of sorrow. When the Central Authority discovered what the sect had done, they moved to stop them. But by then, thousands were dead. Elena's voice was hard. And both sides decided it would be better to pretend it never happened. She scrolled through more records, finding official communications between the Zarkax Central Authority and Earth's then newly formed Space Command. Both sides had agreed, the truth would only breed hatred. Better to wait, to let time pass, and then approach each other again under the guise of peaceful first contact. They weren't entirely wrong, Carthex observed. Look at what we've built since then. The combined scientific achievements, the cultural exchange, the lies, Elena cut in. Don't forget the lies. How many families never knew what really happened to their loved ones? How many survivors were forced to stay silent? She pulled up another file, this one containing medical records. Her breath caught in her throat. The survivors of the attacks, some of them were experimented on. The sect wanted to understand human biology, human psychology. Carthex moved closer, their crystalline form emanating waves of comfort. Commander. Elena. Perhaps we should. An alarm blared, cutting through the archive's peaceful silence. Red light pulsed through the crystalline walls. We've been detected, Carthex said, their form flickering with anxiety. We need to leave. Now. But Elena wasn't listening. She'd found something else in the records, something that made her blood run cold. Carthex, according to this, some of the sect survived. They weren't all captured or killed when your government intervened. They went into hiding, and they're still out there. Impossible, Carthex protested. Our authorities hunted them down. Every last one. Then explain this. Elena projected a document dated just 3 months ago. Someone accessed these records before us. Someone with high-level clearance. And they were specifically looking at the sect's weapons research. The alarm's pitch increased. Through the crystal walls, they could see shapes moving, approaching their location. Download everything, Elena commanded, already pulling data cores from her pack. Everything you can. We're not leaving empty-handed. As they worked frantically to copy the files, Elena's mind raced. If the sect still existed, if they were active again after all these years. The peace between their species was more fragile than anyone knew. Elena, Carthex said urgently, we have company. She turned to see figures in ceremonial armor approaching through the dissolving wall. Their crystalline forms were darker, more angular than Carthex's, and they moved with military precision. Security forces, she asked hopefully. Carthex's form had gone almost black with fear. No. Those are purification sect designs. They're still active within our government. Elena checked her data cores. The download was only at 60%. She made a decision. Get to the ship, she ordered, pushing the cores into Carthex's appendages. Get this to Earth. I'll hold them off. They'll kill you. No, Elena said, drawing her sidearm. According to these records, they like to take specimens alive. And I intend to learn everything I can about what they're planning. Carthex's ship dropped out of FTL Drive near Europa Station, their crystalline form still pulsing with the colors of grief and determination. The data cores containing the stolen archive files felt heavy in their storage compartment, but Elena's sacrifice weighed even heavier on their conscience. The station's defense grid locked onto their ship immediately. Unscheduled arrival, identify yourself, a stern voice commanded over the comm. Priority clearance Sierra 79, Carthex transmitted. Authorization, Commander Elena Reyes. I have critical information for Admiral Marcus Kane. A long pause followed. Carthex's outer shell rippled with anxiety. If Elena's contingency plans failed, if her old mentor wouldn't help. Proceed to Docking Bay 4, the voice finally responded. A security team will escort you. The reception committee consisted of 6 armed Marines and a tall, gray-haired man whose bearing screamed, intelligence officer. Admiral Kane's eyes narrowed at the sight of the Zarkak's historian. Where is Elena? He demanded without preamble. Carthex's form darkened. Captured. By those who would rather keep the past buried. Admiral, what I'm about to share will change everything we thought we knew about our species' first contact. Kane's expression hardened. My office. Now. As they walked through the station's corridors, Carthax noticed how the humans gave them a wide berth. Not with the usual polite distance afforded to a Zarkax's personal space, but with barely concealed suspicion. News of Elena's disappearance had traveled fast. Kane's office overlooked Europa's ice fields through a reinforced viewport. The Admiral activated privacy screens before turning to face Carthax. "Show me." Elena regained consciousness in a chamber that seemed to be carved from living crystal. Her environmental suit was gone, replaced by a thin barrier field that kept her alive in the methane-rich atmosphere. Every breath felt sharp, artificial. "The human awakens," a voice resonated through the crystal walls. "We have questions." She forced herself to smile, despite the pain radiating through her body. "Funny. So do I." A figure emerged from the seemingly solid wall, a Zarkax elder, their crystalline form darker and more jagged than any she'd seen before. The religious markings etched into their surface told her everything she needed to know. She was facing one of the original sect leaders. "Your kind always questions," the elder's translated voice held centuries of contempt. "It is why you must be tested again. The peace has made you soft, forgotten the price of survival." Elena tested her restraint subtly while keeping her captor talking. "Is that why you're building the purifier? To test us again?" The elder's form flickered with surprise before stabilizing. "You know of the sacred weapon. Good. Then you understand what must be done. Your kind proved worthy in combat, but then embraced weakness. Cooperation. Compromise." The last word resonated with disgust. "While your kind embraced extinction," Elena countered. "How many Zarkax support your vision now? 100? Less? Enough." The elder moved closer. "Enough to cleanse the corruption from our species. To restore the old ways. And then humanity will face its true trial." Elena laughed, the sound harsh in the alien atmosphere. "You still don't understand us at all, do you?" Above Europa, the battle raged. The sect's ships moved with terrible grace, their crystalline weapons cutting through space itself. But they faced an enemy they hadn't expected, their own kind, fighting alongside humanity. Carthax's knowledge had transformed Europa Station's defense grid. Specific frequencies turned the sect's ancient weapons against them, shattering their ships into clouds of glittering debris. "Multiple contacts emerging from FTL," a tactical officer announced. It's the Zarkax defense fleet." Admiral Kane allowed himself a grim smile. "Right again, Elena." The sect's attack forced the Central Authority's hand. No more hiding. The new arrivals were sleek crystalline vessels of modern design, their weapons precisely targeted on their corrupted ancestors. The sect fleet found itself caught between humanity's defenses and their own species' judgment. Transmission from the Zarkax flagship, the comm officer reported. The image that appeared showed a Zarkax military commander, their form gleaming with authority. "Europa Station, this is Fleet Commander Vertax. We stand with humanity against this aberration. The time for secrets is over." In her crystal cell, Elena continued her work. Every word exchanged with the elder was transmitted by the microscopic quantum dots she'd been infected with before her capture. Standard spy technology wouldn't have worked on the crystalline architecture, but something based on their own technology. "Your species' greatest flaw," the elder was saying, "is your inability to accept your place in the galaxy's natural order." "No," Elena replied, buying more time as her transmitter mapped the facility. "Our greatest strength is refusing to accept any place except the one we choose for ourselves. We met your test of strength 15 years ago. We proved ourselves worthy by your own standards. And then we proved ourselves better by choosing peace." The elder's form darkened with rage. "Peace built on lies. Peace built on hope," Elena corrected. "Hope that we could be more than our worst moments. That both our species could grow beyond ancient hatreds and fears." She smiled again, seeing the signal she'd been waiting for. Want to know humanity's real greatest strength? The facility's crystal walls began to vibrate with a specific frequency. The Elder's form wavered, their surface cracking. We learn from our enemies. Carthex felt the signal from their stolen archive data, coordinates, buried in Elena's transmission. There. The Sex base is inside Europa's ice shell. Kane was already moving. All ships, concentrate fire on these coordinates. Burn through that ice and... A massive explosion erupted from Europa's surface, sending crystalline shards into space. In the chaos, a small shuttle emerged, racing toward the station. Security breach, the tactical officer shouted. Something's trying to access our... Every screen on the station lit up with data, the complete archives of the purification sect. Their original attacks, their experiments, their current plans, all of it exposed to both species at once. No more secrets, Elena's voice came through, weak but triumphant. No more lies. For either side. As Carthex watched the shuttle approach, they realized the true victory wasn't just military. Elena had forced both species to confront their shared past, to acknowledge the pain and choices that had brought them here. The Sex fleet was in ruins, their base destroyed. But more importantly, the foundations of peace between humanity and the Zarkax were being rebuilt, this time, on truth. The Elder's words echoed in Elena's mind as she piloted the shuttle, "You have doomed us all." "No," she had replied. "I've freed us. Both our species. From the weight of lies we never should have carried." Behind her, Europa's ice shifted and cracked, burying the last remnants of the purification sect in their own crystalline tomb. Ahead, humanity and the Zarkax waited together, ready to face whatever came next. Not as perfect allies. Not as flawless friends. But as species who had seen the worst in each other, and chosen to believe in better. 3 months after the Battle of Europa, Elena stood before the combined council of human and Zarkax representatives. The chamber, designed to accommodate both species, was filled with an atmosphere of tense anticipation. Through the vast windows behind her, Earth hung like a blue jewel in space, while the crystalline spires of the new joint embassy station caught the sun's light. "The full archive has been made public," Elena stated, her voice carrying across the chamber. "Every detail of our species' first contact, the subsequent cover-up, and the purification sex activities. The truth has caused pain, anger, and grief. But it has also done something else." She gestured to Carthex, who stepped forward. Their crystalline form shimmered with colors of hope and determination. "It has given us the chance to heal properly," Carthex continued. "No longer bounded by lies, no matter how well-intentioned those lies might have been." The chamber stirred. Some of the older representatives, those who had been part of the original cover-up, shifted uncomfortably. But they couldn't deny the results of the past 3 months. Trade between the species had actually increased. Cultural exchange programs were oversubscribed. And most surprisingly, military cooperation had reached unprecedented levels, with joint fleet exercises becoming routine. The purification sect believed that strength could only be proved through conflict, Elena said. They were wrong. The greatest strength lies in acknowledging our mistakes, facing our fears, and choosing to build something better. She activated a holographic display, showing the ruins of the Sex base on Europa. "We found something in their archives that they never understood. Their original attacks on human colonies had an unexpected result. Yes, humanity fought back with remarkable strength. But what truly impressed the mainstream Zarkax observers wasn't our capacity for violence." Carthex took over, their form pulsing with emotion. "It was your capacity for mercy. Even in the midst of defending themselves, human forces tried to take prisoners. Tried to communicate. Tried to understand why they were being attacked. This was unprecedented in our experience." Admiral Kane, now representing Earth's military interests, stood. "The sect saw this as weakness. But the wider Zarkak civilization saw something else, a species that could be both formidable in war and compassionate in victory. It was this revelation that led the Central Authority to intervene and seek real peace. A peace built on lies, one of the Zarkak's counselors observed. A peace that gave us time to learn about each other, Elena corrected. Time to build relationships, understanding, and trust. The lies were wrong, yes. But what we built in that time was real. She brought up new images, human and Zarkak scientists working together, joint colonial projects, cultural festivals celebrating both species' achievements. The sex attack forced us to confront our past, Karthek said. But it also proved something they never intended, that the bonds between our species could withstand even the truth. Elena touched her chest, where scars from her captivity were still healing. We've established a joint historical commission to ensure that the full story of our people's interaction is preserved and taught. Not just the triumphs, but the mistakes. The hard choices. The costs. And the lessons, Kane added. The purifier weapon the sect was developing. Our joint research teams have modified its technology. Instead of destroying crystalline life forms, it can now help repair and rebuild them. Their weapon of genocide has become a tool of healing. The chamber erupted in discussion, but Elena wasn't finished. She raised her hand for silence. There will be those who say we should have left the past buried. That some truths are too dangerous to face. To them, I say this, the real danger lies not in truth, but in letting fear of that truth control us. She looked out at the assembled representatives, meeting eyes and crystalline sensors alike. Humanity's greatest strength has never been our technology, our adaptability, or even our determination. It's our ability to face the darkest parts of ourselves and still choose to be better. To take the hand of those who were once enemies and forge new paths together. Kartheks moved to stand beside her, their crystalline form synchronizing with her biorhythms in a display of unity that drew gasps from the assembly. The sect believed that peace made us weak, Elena concluded. But look at what we've accomplished together. Look at how we've grown. This isn't the end of our story, it's barely the beginning. And this time, we're writing it together, in the full light of truth. The chamber was silent for a moment before erupting in approval. As representatives of both species rose to their feet, Elena felt a weight lift from her shoulders. The price of truth had been high, but the reward, genuine understanding between two very different peoples, was worth every scar. Later, standing in the observation dome with Kartheks, Elena watched ships of both species moving through space together. Was it worth it? Kartheks asked softly. All the pain, the risk. Elena smiled, touching the crystal wall that separated them from vacuum. Look out there. What do you see? The future, Kartheks replied, their form glowing with quiet joy. Exactly. And this time, it's built on truth. Elena's reflection overlapped with Kartheks's crystalline form in the window, creating a perfect synthesis of both species. That makes all the difference in the universe.